The first issue that I've been asked to look at is how has any interpretation of Shakespeare been utilized or used during the last 2 years in which we today have experienced the pandemic. As I said in my little, at the start of my little performance in the introduction, I mean, Shakespeare is the right person to go back to try to understand our own times, in the sense that his whole life was lived through a series of plagues, similar to pandemics. 1/3 of the population of London in his own day was wiped out in the pandemic. And although Shakespeare himself never wrote a play that dealt directly with the plague, the pandemic, it clearly did have an enormous influence on him. There are so many metaphorical, allegorical uses of the term plague in all the plays that it must have been something that was constantly on his mind. And the biggest impact it had on him was the fact that his son, at the age of 11, died of the plague. That, for now, or that is historical recorded fact. So one can imagine the impact that it had on him. And yet again, you don't see this clearly in any of the plays until you reach Hamlet, and then some start to think this is a play that is dealing both with the death of his son and the death of his father. Say, a son that was killed in real life by the plague. As for using Shakespeare as a means of looking to the future and hopefully using Shakespeare's Hamlet in an optimistic way, at first it seems strange to use Hamlet in this kind of way. Most people think Shakespeare's Hamlet is it's a great play, but it's also pessimistic. It's one in which you've got a central character that is full of doubts, full of insecurity. Yes, he has wonderful thoughts, but he's unable to put anything into action. And it's a play in which, at the end of the day, all the central characters end up killing each other. And how can you draw from Hamlet some kind of inspiration for the future? But I think you can, because you can in two kind of ways. There's the indirect way that I tried to explain, that Hamlet is about facing up to the past and the present and trying to deal with those problems so that one can move on, one can move forward. And if he doesn't fully achieve the resolution that he wanted, and he will fail in the end as an individual character, nevertheless, the message is clear right from the start of the play. If you want to move on, if you want to create a different kind of future, you cannot sweep under the carpet, as we say, the problems that have got us into this kind of situation. And the play does end, ironically, on an optimistic note. All right, everyone has slaughtered everyone else and they've all killed each other off. But at the end of the day, a new figure comes on the scene that, now that the slate has been wiped clean, hopefully the end is, okay, now we can go forward. Now we can go forward. And, so one can, I think, use Hamlet, even despite many of its depressing features to say, no, it shows us how we must confront the problem, all the different problems that we currently face, and if we can deal with them in one way or another, that a future can be created. And as I say, we are confronted with so many problems and so many interlinking problems. The pandemic is only one of them. There's all the other problems that we must confront, from poverty, inequalities, lack of funding for some of our key institutions like health, like education, climate change, the whole value system of our economy is geared towards profit and growth that is destroying and wiping out the natural resources and wiping out the biodiversity. All of these problems are connected. And, one has to have hope and faith that somehow this new, young, active generation of young people seems to be taking all of this very seriously and coming up with inspiring ways of what needs to be done and the kind of radical changes that need to be made. We have an older generation that have bequeathed all these problems to them, can only wish them well and wish them success. And let's hope that they are the generation. We tried, we failed. Let's hope they are the generation that continue to try. And by God, let's hope that they succeed, because time is running out. And if they don't, will there be time for their sons and daughters and grandchildren? We don't know. So let's, really hope that this is the generation and encourage them to think imaginatively, think creatively, think boldly, because we've got to take bold solutions. We've got to find bold solutions to such big, huge problems that confront us. Let's not go back to normality. Let's find bold ways of genuinely going forward in a new kind of way.